Now, Hare Krishna. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी। यशोदानंदना व्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदना ब्रजजन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी। यशोदानंदना ब्रजजन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। We'll start with the prayers, seeking permission from Parampara to discuss spiritual subjects. Om Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha। Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet. Nashtaprayesha Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanaphaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagathitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Om apavitra pavitro va sarvavastham gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksham sabhahyapyantaram shuchihi Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu. Hare Krishna Prabhujis and Matajis, Dandat Pranam to all who have joined, spared your time on a Sunday morning for this
Hare Krishna
Bhagavatam.
Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Sirisha Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna Santosh
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna Mataji,
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Praveen Prabhu, Teja Mataji. Hare Krishna Sanjay Prabhu. Hare Krishna Teja Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna Satyadev Prabhu. Hare Krishna Sunil Prabhu. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna Mataji.
As you all know, I am not at all qualified to be seated here to speak anything about Bhagavatam, but it is mercy of Lilananda Prabhuji that he has given us an opportunity to preach the words of Srimad Bhagavatam as per what we have heard in the parampara, and that is a great fortune. I believe that I am able to utter a few words of whatever I have heard and trying to speak from whatever I have heard. If I make any mistakes, I request you to kindly pardon me for my mistakes. Yeah. So today we are doing the 5th canto, 15th chapter, which is called Glories of Descendants of King Priyavrata. Yeah, this is the chapter 15. Yesterday we completed chapter 14, which was very, very elaborate, and there was a wonderful discussion, especially about what we face, like in this material world, about the different ways in which our senses plunder us into the entanglement into the material world again and again. So after that, the original question of Parikshit Maharaj about the dynasty of Swayambhuva Manu, which is like and King Priyavrata is a part is from the dynasty of Swayambhuva Manu, and this chapter actually kind of concludes the discussion about the dynasty of Swayambhuva Manu also. So this is a concluding chapter of King Priyavrata and his further descendants. So in actually, if we see this chapter, it is very just, it looks like as if it is giving us a lot of information: whose son is who, whose son is who, whose son is who. But there are some wonderful examples that are taken, and why it is important to know about these descendants is also because there are some exemplary Vaishnavas who are always born in such glorified dynasties, who help us to understand in some way or the other the glorification of our Lord and our duties. They remind us of our duties, or they help us in getting closer to the Supreme Lord. So that is what that is the reason why it is important to know um, about the descendants also. So it is not just information, but actually even during the chapter you will see that there are some specific devotees who have been picked up both by Srimad Bhagavatam and by Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam has kind of little elaborated on certain personalities in this dynasty, and tell us that what is the speciality, what did they do special in the path of devotional service. So usually in Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll see that while their opulences are glorified materially also, but what is more important to us is what have they done in glorification of the Supreme Lord, or in the path of their duties, be it varnashrama dharma or be it about bhakti. What have they done? So that is, and why that is important is also again to seek inspiration from such exemplified personalities of how we can mold our uh, little, this tiny weeny life that we have, and very little that we can do. We can't really imitate anybody, but we can get inspired from everybody who's around us, who is teaching us. And what more can be a better inspiration than Srimad Bhagavatam itself? So that is what is this chapter about. So initially it will look like it is just information about descendants, but there are some personalities who have been especially elaborated upon by Prabhupada also, and clarified on certain topics which in our day-to-day life we may have certain doubts about these topics. So wherever speciality of Prabhupada is, wherever he feels that there could be a possibility of this topic getting misinterpreted, or this particular point getting misdirected into the society, he will specifically elaborate and put his purport in such a way that we can relate to it even in our current time and age. So this knowledge is actually ageless and timeless. Such is the wonderful knowledge. So here we go with this chapter. So what I have done is that I have read through the purports, and I have kind of, because it is like more texty, what I have done is I have just put in a tabular form about whose son, and um, who are the children of which particular king, and things like that, so that it becomes very easy for us. So I'll just take you through a little bit of this, so that when we are reading the text, it becomes very easy for you to correlate. So here, um, so we see that it starts with Bharata, because that's where we ended yesterday, that Jada Bharata, and how he left his body. So Bharata's sons here are Sumati and Vriddhasena. So Sumati is the son, and his wife is Vriddhasena, who further gives birth. Sumati gives birth to Devatajit as a son, and his wife is Asuri. They have a son who's called Devadyumna, and his wife is Dhenumati. Is everybody able to see my screen? Is it clear? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
And my audio is clear?
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Yeah. So Sumati's son is Devatajit, whose wife is Asuri. They again further have a son who is Devadyumna, and wife is Dhenumati. Their son is Parameshthi, and whose wife is Suvarchala, whose son is Pratiha, wife is Suvarchala. And then Pratiha has three sons. Prastota, Pratiharta, and Pratiharta marries Tuti, and Udgata. So then you will see that there are only not every child is being elaborated upon. So only those in which there are important personalities. I think that is the sequence. That is the reason why there are some who are excluded and some have got further elaborated. So Pratiharta's son is Aja and Bhuma. Bhuma marries Rishikulya and they have Udgita and Devakulya. Then again, Udgita has Prastava and Niyutsa. Prastava has Vibhu who marries Rati. Vibhu again has son who is Prithusena who marries Akuti. Prithusena has son who is Nakta whose wife is Dhruti. And Nakta's son is Gaya. So why is this lineage important? Is because Gaya is a direct expansion of Lord Vishnu. So therefore, this particular lineage has been described. And he has Gayanti has his wife, and Gaya again has Sugati, Chitraratha, who marries Urna, and Avarodhana. These are the three sons. Chitraratha again has Samrat as his son, and who further is married to Utkala. They have Marichi as their son, and whose wife is Bindumati. Marichi and Bindumati, again they have Bindu as their son, who is married to Saragha. And Bindu has son Madhu, who is married to Sumana. Madhu's son is Veeravrata, who is married to Bhoja. Veeravrata's sons are Manthu and Pramanthu. Manthu is married to Satya. And they have a son, Bhavana, who is married to Dushana. Bhavana son is Twashta, who is married to Virochana, and Twashta's son is Viraja, who is married to Vishuchi. Now, this people who have underlined like Viraja, Gaya, and Pratiha are three important personalities who are discussed in this chapter, and what is their contribution and what inspiration can we take from them has been discussed. That's why I have kind of bolded them and kind of underlined them, that is they are the important personalities to be discussed. But otherwise most of the chapter is only about who's whose son, and that we have already covered in this table. Viraja has one daughter and 100 sons. Of the 100 sons, Shatajit is the prominent one, and 99 sons are there who are not described. So Shatajit is the one. But basically, they close the chapter at Viraja and describing how Viraja is important for the glorification of this particular dynasty. So that is what has been covered in these 16 shlokas which are present in this particular chapter. I know that it's very difficult to remember. Even I don't remember anybody's names, but that is not the point. The point is to focus on some important personalities and how they can inspire us. So that is what this chapter is. So let's start with text 1. And here, because all these shlokas are basically proses, so I'll not be going into the recitation of the proses. What we will do is we'll go with the translation and some parts of the purports I'll be taking. I would request anybody to freely volunteer without any need
Hare
for
Krishna.
calling out. Yes, you can please volunteer and read whatever I have highlighted. You please continue to reading until there, and then we will discuss about the purport.
Is it in the yellow one, Mataji?
Yes, no, everything like yellow except white. You can read everything, Prabhuji.
The translation. Srila Sukadeva Goswami continued. The son of Maharaj Bharata, known as Sumati, followed the path of Rishabhadeva. But in the age of Kali, some unscrupulous people will imagine him to be Lord Buddha himself. These people, who will actually be atheistic and of bad character, will interpret the Vedic principles in an imaginary, infamous way to support their activities. Thus, these sinful people will accept Sumati as Lord the Deva and propagate the theory that everyone should follow the principles of Sumati. In this way, they will be carried away by mental concoction. Purport. Those who are Aryans strictly follow the Vedic principles, but in this age of Kali, a community has sprung up known as the Arya Samaj, who members are ignorant of the import of the Vedas, the Parampara system. They decry all bona fide acharyas and boast themselves as of real followers of the Vedic principles. But in fact, such non-Aryans do not follow the Vedic principles. Another group of non-Aryans are the Jains, who are referred to in the present verse. Not only do they not follow the Vedic principles, but they have no relationship with the Lord Buddha, though they claim to. Imitating the behavior of Sumati, they also claim to be descendants of Vishabhadeva. Bhagavad Gita 15.15 Krishna says, Vedesha sarver ahamneva vedya. The real purpose of the Vedas is to understand me. This is the injunction of all the Vedic literatures. One who does not know the greatness of the Lord Krishna cannot be accepted as an Aryan. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So here, if we observe, he's saying the son of Maharaja Bharat, known as Sumati, followed the path of Rishabdeva. So that is actually the path of liberation, and he's followed the teachings of Rishabdeva. And here we see, but in the age of Kali, some unscrupulous people will imagine him to be Lord Buddha himself. And later again, who will actually be atheistic and of bad character will interpret. So, what does this will interpret and will imagine? What does this kind of indicate to us? Is it past tense, present tense, future tense? What is this? Anybody? So, will imagine to be Lord Buddha himself in the age of Kali. So, when is the Bhagavatam actually being written? The Kali, it's not yet come, right? And so this is basically what it is indicating is it is talking about the future. It is giving a prophecy that this is what is going to happen. So basically it is a prophecy. It is telling us about the future, that this is how it will happen. Now they have so translation has given us that this could be possible. What Prabhupada is doing is giving us an example about this translation, that who are the possible people who have done this, who are the unscrupulous people who will imagine to be Lord Buddha, and who will actually be atheistic and of bad character, will interpret the Vedic principles in an imaginary, infamous way to support their activities. So that's why he talks about Arya Samaj here and gives us a kind of example about Arya Samaj. Now, what actually is the meaning of Arya? Do you remember in our Bhagavad Gita, actually in the second chapter, in the second verse itself, when Krishna starts talking, starts speaking or chastising rather Arjuna, what does he call him? Hare Krishna? Anybody remember? What does Krishna call Arjuna?
First, he calls him important.
Yeah. So in terms of Sanskrit terminology, what is the word that you can recollect that he is calling Arjuna, chastising him?
Mudha.
In 2.2 Bhagavad Gita, he calls him Anarya Jushtam Asvargyam. So Anarya Jushtam, and there in actually in the purport, Prabhupada is actually talking about that who is an Aryan and who is a Anarya, who is a non-Aryan. So Prabhupada tells that anybody who is a civilized, so all the civilized class of men were called Aryans. And what is the definition of this civilization? Like who is a civilized person and who is not a civilized person? So he talks about in that purport, he clarifies that the word Aryan is actually applicable to those people who know the value of life and who have a civilization which is based on spiritual realization. So who are actually living by the principles of Vedic injunctions, those are the Aryans, persons who are led by and who do not know anything about the aim of life to be self-realization or realization of the absolute truth. Okay, and those people are always go into the materialistic direction. and they have no clue what liberation is, because they are like totally entangled into the material life. But who is an Aryan is one who knows what is my purpose, why am I here, my purpose is self realization, and that is actually an Aryan, and he lives by the principles. And when we talk about lives by the principles of Vedic injunctions, so that is the reason why he is talking about this prediction that Sumati's path is going to be misinterpreted. He's talking about that in age of Kali, some people will mistake Sumati to be Buddha, and they will be atheistic and of bad character. That's what we just read in the purport, and that they are going to distort all the Vedic principles to justify their actions. But when he is giving the example, why did Prabhupada specifically choose Arya Samaj? Is Arya Samaj has actually not followed the Vedic injunctions. They have actually, what they have done is that they have ignored all the Vedic principles in the Parampara system. They oppose the legitimate Acharyas also. They negate Puranas also. They do not believe in Puranas, Arya Samaj. And they say that no, only Shabda Praman is the one. So they talk about, of course, they talk about Vedas and Upanishads, but they totally negate the Puranas. And we know that Puranas are actually, again, like even if Srimad Bhagavatam is a Purana, and it is the Sara of all the Vedic injunctions. Unless we know that what is the message which is coming out, how will anybody realize that Vedas are meant for the purpose of realizing the absolute truth? Like Krishna has said, Vedescha sarver ahameva vedya, that you are supposed to know about me from all the Vedic injunctions. That is the purpose of Vedas. But if we are totally removing the Puranas and negating them and saying that no acharyas are correct, there is nothing called Puranas, we don't have to, they are just stories, they are myths, they are mythological and things like that, then which means that you are not following the Vedic principles. You are concocting your own system of philosophy and misguiding the people. So, so that is what Prabhupada has actually given this example. That is the specific reason. And the reason goes back to again Bhagavad Gita, which is actually talking about Anarya, and who is an Anarya, who is an Arya, and why this Arya Samaj is actually opposing the meaning of its very name itself. The true purpose of Vedas is actually to understand Lord Krishna, and those who are unaware of his greatness cannot be considered Aryans. That's what Prabhupada says in this particular purport of the first shloka. So we have seen that always in Srimad Bhagavatam, the first shloka of every chapter is a power packed one. It is like kind of hitting us in the face. So it is like that. So, and this verse is also like that. It is clearly telling us that what is actually our role and what we are supposed to do and what we are not supposed to do. Lord Buddha, who is an incarnation of Lord Krishna, is actually propagated Bhagavad Dharma among atheists. But for the specific time, place, circumstance, how much was necessary to be given, that much only was given. So there was a specific role of Buddha. But these people again, they have concocted some of them, like especially mention of Jains is there, who have kind of taken Sumati as Lord Buddha. So that is what is this particular the first verse talking about. We go to the second verse. Yeah, somebody can volunteer for reading the translation.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Shall I read
Hare
Mataji?
Krishna. Please, Prabhuji.
Translation. From Sumati, a son named Devajita was born by the womb of his wife named
Vriddhasena.
Vriddhasena.
Devatajit Vriddhasena. Next, you can continue this also, Prabhuji.
Translation. Thereafter, in the womb of Aspuri, the wife of Devajita, a son named Devadyumna was begotten. Devadyumna begot in the womb of his wife Denumati a son named Param. एक मिनट माता जी थोड़ा परमा
Parameshthi.
Parameshthi
Parameshthi.
Parameshthi belong to
Begot
sorry
a son
Parameshthi.
named
We got a son in the womb of his wife Suravach
Suvarchala. Suvarchala.
Suvarchala.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Prabhuji.
Mataji, on mobile it's very small.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Is the color distracting you?
No, no, Mataji, that's fine.
Okay. Okay,
But
Prabhuji.
font
No
is
problem.
very small.
Yeah. Anybody else for the next translation and purport?
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Shall I read? Hare Krishna,
Yes, ma'am.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please read.
Okay. King Pratiha personally propagated the principles of self-realization. In this way, not only was he purified, but he became a great devotee of the Supreme Person, Lord Vishnu, and directly realized him. Purport. I will read from the book. Is it okay?
Yeah, no
Because
problem.
the phone is very small. That's why.
No problem.
The
You
word-
can read until here, the Lord Vishnu as he is. Until then, you can read in the purport.
Yeah. The word Mara is very significant. God consciousness is not imaginary or concocted. The devotee who is pure and advanced realizes God as he is. Maharaja Pratiha did so, and due to his direct realization of Lord Vishnu, he propagated self-realization and became a preacher. A real preacher cannot be bogus. He must first of all realize Lord Vishnu as he is. As confirmed in Bhagavad 3:4, Upadekshyanti te gnanam Gnaninas Tattvadarshina. One who has seen the truth can impart knowledge. Next,
Yes.
also is there?
That's all, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
So
Krishna.
this purport and this particular translation is very, very important, and we can take some inspiration from here because it is talking about preachers. Okay, so what it is saying is that due to his direct realization of Lord Vishnu, he propagated self-realization and became a preacher. So ideally, the definition, not the definition, but ideally the preachers are ones who have direct realization of Lord Vishnu. But all of us are also trying to preach, and we have no such realization as of now. So what do? So real preacher cannot be bogus. He must first of all realize Lord Vishnu as he is. So once I read this, I feel that I am that bogus person as soon as I read this. But then Prabhupada, who is extremely merciful, is again has clarified at many places in different purports in different contexts, whether it is Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, that why preaching is important for every person who is in the path of Krishna consciousness and doesn't have to wait until the entire purification is done, because preaching in itself is a process of purification. So when we are actually talking about this, so we are seeing in this particular fourth shloka, few important points that we have seen is King Pratiha propagation of self-realization. What he is doing, he is personally promoting the principles of self-realization. Why? Because he himself is self-realized. Through his practice, he has purified himself. And now he has become a devoted follower of Lord Vishnu and directly perceived him. And therefore he is able to. Now, why is this word anusasmara? Why is it very significant? Because it emphasizes the importance of genuine God consciousness. So when this particular verse is actually telling about the genuine God consciousness and about the purity, the purification, we feel that obviously we are lacking that. How are we even trying to preach anything? So the criteria, and even this particular translation and purport is also talking about the criteria for genuine preachers. Who is a genuine preacher? A true preacher cannot be a fraud. They have to realize Lord Vishnu as he truly is. That is a genuine preacher. And then Prabhupada has also given the reference of Bhagavad Gita 4.34, which is talking about Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshantite Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshina. So who is that Tattvadarshi is one and who can impart the knowledge unto you because he's seen the truth. And that we have to see them. So they are the real preachers. So now what? What next? What do we do? So because who is perfectly realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead, qualifying them to become a guru, and that is the only one who can actually preach ideally. So now what has happened is that, and this is also, so this is a real life example, like when the principle lies in Bhagavad Gita, that what Krishna talks about is one who is preaching is very dear to me, he says in Bhagavad Gita. And here is a live example, King Pratiha, who is serving as the epitome of those genuine preachers and that gurus, due to his direct realization of Lord Vishnu. But Srila Prabhupada has also clarified in many of the purports that all the conditioned souls are impure because we are in contact with the three modes of material nature. So obviously purity is not here. So, and therefore it is necessary that we purify our that we purify our souls, right? And for that we are seeking the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master who is not only a Brahmana by qualification, but he is also a Vaishnava. So that is the quality of a spiritual master. But we can understand that purification of existence is necessary, and it is not an optional thing for us. We have to purify ourselves. And what are the different things that need to be purified? And that is the process of devotional service. Through devotional service, we are actually, devotional service is the means, and it is also the end. And that is the only way we can accelerate the purification process. So when purifying our existence, what does it mean actually? What are we trying to purify? There are different things, 6 things that Prabhupada talks about in different purports. And so for the first thing is about purifying our body and senses. So it goes from the gross to the subtle. So the gross elements are our body and our senses. And how do we purify them? Is by, like, therefore the purification has to start from the eating. We purify the prasada by offering it to Krishna. The bhoga is offered to Krishna, and that's how the purification happens. And when we eat the prasada, our body and senses get purified. Then he talks about what else needs to be purified. Mind needs to be purified. So when we contemplate, when we think about Krishna, his name, form, glories, pastimes, rupa, guna, lila, Nam, Roop, Guna, Leela, then that is the way our mind gets purified. Intelligence gets purified by reading scriptures and contemplating on them. And the last two important things that Prabhupada has spoken about is purifying our speech and our consciousness. So how do we purify our speech and consciousness? Obviously, the only way is preaching. So for purification of speech and consciousness, we have to refer to this wonderful a wonderful verse which was spoken by Maitreya Muni in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto in the 6th chapter, where he says that in spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear, actually he happens to witness the conversation between Krishna and Uddhava, right, in the 3rd canto. So, and Maitreya Muni happens to be there, and he very clearly states that it's my inability. I am not a pure devotee of the Lord. I was actually in the path of jnana, but in spite of my inability, whatever I could by pure.
Hare Krishna Mataji, your voice is gone.
Your voice is one.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so so what I was talking about is in the 3rd canto in the 6th chapter, Maitreya Muni is actually telling that because he has no ability to actually speak about the subject matter, but whatever he could hear from the spiritual master and whatever he could assimilate, he is going to describe that in glorification of the Lord by pure speech, because that is the only way that his speaking could remain unchaste. That's what he's talking about. That the only way my speaking can be unchaste is if I glorify the Lord based on what I have heard. So here, multiple things he's covered, that he's heard it in the Guru Parampara, and that he is only kind of repeating that. And by speaking whatever he has heard, he is able to purify his speech. So Maitreya Muni was emphasizing that point, that in spite of his inability, he wants to glorify the Lord according to his intelligence. That's why he's talking about yathamati yathashrutam. This is a very famous thing, no, that we have heard, yathamati yathashrutam. However I have heard, and however I have assimilated. So, and in the submissive hearing, he is talking about the his speech getting purified. So purified, that is the purification of the speech. Now, how do we purify the consciousness? Purification of conditioned soul means that we have to necessarily purify our consciousness. And how can we do that? So we have to make an attempt at least to engage our body and our verbal activities, our mental activities, which means that our mind, our speech, and our body in transcendental activities like glorification of the Lord. Otherwise, these activities will remain unchaste and impure. So the existence of conditioned soul can be purified only by the method of engaging the mind and speech in the service of the Lord. So if we have to preach for 1 hour, what will we do? Like, now I have to actually prepare. I had to prepare for this particular class. In fact, I actually prepared for the 16th chapter because that was what was allotted to me. And yesterday in the class, I got to know that it is actually 15th chapter. So to prepare for this 1.5 hours class, I actually spent the whole day yesterday. Which means that it's not about like how much I am building up my intelligence with that. That's not the intention. How much time have I spent with the scriptures, which is a direct incarnation of Krishna, right? So if we have to preach for 1 hour, we have to spend at least some 6-7 hours in the study, and then we have to contemplate on what we are studying. We have to think about it. We have to find examples in our real life and also in the from the scriptures, so that we don't concoct the meaning. We have to talk exactly how we have heard it. So there is a lot of contemplation there which is happening. So is all this an exercise? Is it called a material exercise, or is it a spiritual exercise? What are we doing?
Spiritual exercise, Mother.
Spiritual exercise. So if it is spiritual exercise, will there be any purification? If it was a material exercise, there is only contamination. But if it is spiritual exercise, obviously there is purification of my body, my senses, my mind, because I have spent so much time with it. Because though I am like, I have no qualification, I have no ability also to understand what this is and respond to you or reproduce it to you. Whatever I am doing is only what material I have collected from the different sources, like from ISKCON Desire Tree, from Bhagavatam, from the different Bhagavad Gita, from the different shlokas. But that is the process of purification that I'm undergoing for this day. So we have to churn our mind, we have to churn our intelligence, and then to assimilate whatever we have studied. Then I have to speak to you. So I am purifying my speech. And then this is how I'm purifying. Because by speaking in class, what is happening? Everything is not only I am getting purified, but your ears are also getting, you are hearing it. So that also is a purification. So both for your purification and my purification. That's why whenever we see all these wonderful devotees giving classes, so earlier I would never understand why they are talking about, like, for my purification I am saying this. But after doing yesterday's study and understanding this detailed purports that Prabhupada had given at different places about why preaching is important. So why do you think that when he went to the US, he actually made even the like just the beginners also, he made them sannyasis. Not because they were qualified to become sannyasis, but because he wanted to give them the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And it only with Lord Chaitanya's mercy and Lord Nityananda's mercy can they get into the system and can start the process of their purification, because once they become sannyasis, they have to preach. And if they have to preach, they have to study, and this entire process they will repeat. So that is the great mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that he was actually not just doing it out of his whims and fancies. He was actually following this principle that he has to give the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda to a common man, irrespective of their qualification or condition. Just give it. And so are we, all of us who are here. None of us have that qualification. We don't have any purification. And until very recently, we were so much conditioned in our material lives. But today, if we are preaching, not because like I am a great preacher, we are not preaching because I can talk very nicely, or I can make notes nicely, or I can reproduce whatever I have heard, or I can sing shlokas nicely. That's not the intention. The whole process is that I am probably the most person who needs the most purification, right? And that's why I've been given some mercy that okay, come, aage aa jao queue mein, and you can start your process, look like the most impoverished person in this material world, and you better come first. You need the food more than anybody else. You need nourishment more, and that's how I have started looking at it. So it is important that we must attempt to preach. Preaching is very, very important. Whatever little we know, do not think about how I can speak, what the other person will hear. And of course, then again, there is we should not do the aparadha also of preaching to non-believers, but at least in the first attempt we have to preach. We have to understand if the other person is not taking it, then we can't force it. But the first attempt also itself, we should not think that no, we don't have any qualifications, so let me not speak. So that's what Prabhupada has clarified at many places, and saying that you can attain complete purification of existence if you are doing this. In Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna himself says that no one is more dear to me than the one who is preaching. So his message, and also he guarantees that such a person will get pure devotional service. So the more and more we talk about Krishna, at least to one who is inquisitive to know, and discuss Krishna Katha, discuss the topics about the Lord, his pastimes, his devotees, that much purification we'll have, and that much we will progress in our this one. So there in our devotional service. So Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied for the attempts that we are making, for one who is engaging in the service of preaching Krishna consciousness. And if we sincerely try our best to spread this, we become the dearmost servant of him. So isn't it a great gift, or what you would say, a reward for our just a menial attempt of trying to speak something about Krishna, right? Don't you feel that we are doing a small minuscule task, like a probably an ant who is taking out a sugar ka one crystal, moving from here to there, but the reward is like, okay, you got a human birth. It's something like that, right? Don't you feel that all these, when you are hearing it, is amazing? Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Is
Mataji.
everybody
Yes,
able to
Mataji.
resonate with me what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yes,
That's
Yes,
why
Mataji.
Mataji.
preaching
You
is
are absolutely right,
important.
Mataji.
Yes. So despite of our abilities, we have to do, and because this is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Lord. And therefore, the mission for which we have taken birth, that will get fulfilled just by preaching. If we want to be recognized by Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is saying that you will become dearmost to me, this is one way that we can do. But again, we have to be very, very submissive. We have to talk what is given in parampara, and we should not do it for our glorification, but every minute we have to think, how can we, in every word that I speak, how can I glorify Krishna? And the Lord will recognize them. right? So that is the wonderful. And this small example, imagine this small example of just some lineage can bring us to such a wonderful realization uh, from this particular chapter. So everything is important and every word is important, and that is what the word preacher here, and what a preacher needs to do, that actually tells us how what is the importance of this chapter. We proceed with the next text, next translation. Hare Krishna. Anybody volunteering?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes, Akinsa, please.
Yes, Prabhuji, Chandramali Prabhu, you can do.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation. In the womb of his wife, Savarchala, Pratiha begot 3 sons named Pratiharta, Prastotata, and Udgata. These 3 sons were very expert in performing Vedic rituals. Pratiharta begot 2 sons named Aja and Bhuma in the womb of his wife named Stuti.
So after that heavy discussion on the preaching, we again get back to the lineage, and we see that again who is whose son and things like that. Yeah. Anybody else for the next translation? Yeah, please, Prabhuji, please continue.
In the womb of his wife Rishikulya, King Bhuma begot a son named Udgita. From Udgita's wife Devakulya, a son named Prastava was born, and Prastava begot a son named Vibhu through his wife Niyutsa. In the womb of his wife Rati, Vibhu begot a son named Prutusena. Prutusena begot a son named Naka in the womb of his wife named Akuti. Nakta's wife was Druti, and from her womb the great king Gaya was born. Gaya was very famous and pious. He was the best of saintly kings. Lord Vishnu and its expansions were meant to protect the universe are always situated in the transcendental mode of goodness known as Visuddha Sattva. Being the direct expansion of Lord Vishnu, King Gaya was also situated in the Visuddha Sattva. Because of this, Maharaja Gaya was fully equipped with transcendental knowledge. Therefore, he was called Mahapurusha. Perfect. From this verse, it appears that the incarnations of God are various. Some are part and parcels of the direct expansions, and some are direct expansions of Lord Vishnu. A direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Amsa or Swamsa, whereas an incarnation from Amsa is called Kala. Among the Kalas, there are the
Vibhinamsa.
Vibhinamsa Jivas or living entities. These are counted among the Jiva Tattvas. Those who come directly from Lord Vishnu are called Vishnu Tattva and are sometimes designated as Mahapurusha. Another name for Krishna is Mahapurusha, and a devotee is sometimes called
Paurushika.
Paurushika.
Yeah. So again, we saw earlier, we got a great devotee who became famous for his preaching of Lord's about Lord and the glorification of Lord. So we saw in this same lineage, we saw that. Now they have described about the different, which we already saw in the tabular column. We'll again revisit it at the end, but the same thing again, Gaya. So it stopped at Gaya here, who was again very famous and pious. So who was the best? So he exemplified his dharma, the Varnashrama dharma, and how he used for devotional service is basically what the future verses will talk about. That why Gaya is important. Why? Because he is Lord Vishnu's expansion himself, right? Are always situated in the transcendental mode of goodness. known as Maharaja Gaya, was fully equipped with transcendental knowledge. Therefore, he was called Mahapurusha. Yes, somebody for the next translation.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. King Gaya gave full protection and security to all the citizens so that their personal property would not be disturbed by undesirable elements. He also saw that there was sufficient food to feed all the citizens. This is called posada. He would sometimes distribute gifts. He would sometimes distribute gifts to the citizens to satisfy them. This is called upalalana. Upalalana. Sorry, I missed. This is called prenana. He would sometimes call meetings and satisfy the citizens with the sweet words. This is called upalalana. He would also give them good instructions on how to become first-class citizens. This is called anusasana. Such were the characteristics of the King Gaya royal order. Besides all this, King Gaya was the householder who strictly observed the rules and regulations of the household life. He performed sacrifices and was an unallied pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was called Mahapurusha because he gave the citizens all the facilities, and as a householder he executed all his duties so that at the end he became a strict devotee of the Supreme Lord. As a devotee, he was always ready to give respect to other devotees and to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. This is called, sorry, this is the Bhakti Yoga process. Due to all transcendental activities, King Gaya was always free from the bodily consumption. He was full in Brahman realization, and consequently, he was always jubilant. He did not experience material lamentation. Although he was perfect in all respects, he was not proud nor was anxious to rule kingdoms. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, so here we are seeing that, and we have seen in Srimad Bhagavatam in the past also, right? Like, who are such Rajarishis that Bhagavatam has spoken in the past cantos that we have already seen, where similar things were written about them, that they took care that sufficient food to feed all the citizens, the Poshana, the Prenana, which is about satisfying them with gifts, sometimes called meetings, and satisfy the citizens with sweet words, which is called Upalalana, and then good instructions on how to become first class citizens, which is Anushasana. So, have we seen such examples in the past already? What are a few examples?
Yudhishthir Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj.
Yes. Parikshit Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, right? Where one common thing that you will see is like this common description that we have seen, that they were like exemplary in their duties also, and at as a householder also, how they were like in the household life, how they strictly observed the rules and regulations, performed sacrifices. Yeah. And here, as a devotee, he was always ready to give respect to other devotees and engage in devotional service of the Lord. So it's not like he's just doing his outside duties greatly, but it's actually talking about that no, he also took care of his devotional service that was not compromised for his external duties. And that is what is the Bhakti Yoga process, that you do everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And why was he taking care of this Prenana, Upalalana, Anushasana of the citizens, so that he can guide them also into the path of devotional service. So when a king is wonderfully taking care of his subjects, so obviously the citizens will follow whatever the king says. So take care of them wonderfully, and then give them the mercy of Krishna consciousness. So that is what he was actually doing, right? So now when we so about King Gaya that we talk about, so Lord Krishna also stated in Bhagavad Gita that he descends to protect the faithful and annihilate the demons. So now, why was Gaya called again as a direct incarnation of Vishnu is being expanded upon in the puppet, basically, and where, and this is text 7, right? Yeah, in the puppet, actually, some important points are highlighted by Prabhupada, where Lord of role of kings is mentioned. What are kings? Kings are basically representatives of Supreme Lord, and that's why they were also called Naradeva, the Lord in the human form. So, and they lived their life according to the Vedic injunctions, and they worshipped the God on the material platform, because they are here in the material platform, and they are actually kind of living examples, role models for the subjects to follow. So therefore it was the duty of the king to ensure that citizens, about citizens welfare, they're providing food, protection, and that they are happy, and in that process they would levy the taxes. So Prabhupada actually clarifies in the purport that kings are responsible, and only such responsible kings can only levy taxes, and those who are not doing all this of this upalalana, plenana and everything, they are not authorized to take taxes, and if they take any undue taxation, they are accountable for the citizen sins also. So why would a king, what is in it for the king? Why would he take care of all his subjects? Because again, one is obviously in the sense of uh, propagating devotional service, but suppose somebody is not that realized also, at least for the fear of being accountable for his citizen sins, he would not do that. So, but do we see that in Kali Yuga? No, we don't see. Here already there is no king subject system. It is a democracy, and that's the reason why, like, the subjects are sinful, the government is sinful, and each one is taking each other's sins ka accountability, and automatically everything is got messed up in Kali Yuga. So that is why there is no, first of all, this system is not there, and everybody is basically sinful. And Vibhishna actually, Prabhupada also talks about Vibhishna in the purport, and he says that in Ramayana he talked about Kali Yuga, and he said Brahmanas and kings would suffer, because Brahmanas and kings both would suffer. That's what he mentioned, which is indicating that what is the state we are in, what is the kind of the worst case scenario that we are already in when we are in Kali Yuga, and therefore there is no presence of any ideal king or Brahmanas in Kali. So, and that is one very important cause of all the chaos that we see around globally, and there is uh, whoever you see is actually in a state of distress in some form or another, and it everything boils down for not having the ideal kings. And whereas what is Maharaja Gaya actually exemplifying here is basically he is the true representative of Lord Vishnu, because every activity is as determined by the Vedic injunctions. Like we saw, everything that he's doing, whether outside in his official capacity, or whether at home as a householder, he is. That's the reason why he is called the Mahapurusha, and that is the reason why here we are there is a little elaboration in the puppet also. We proceed with the next. Yes, who will read next? Anybody can repeat also, like if you want to read again, it's fine.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Text number 8. My dear King Parikshit, those who are learned scholars in the histories of Puranas eulogize and glorify King Jaya with the following verses. Purport. The historical references to exalted kings serve as a good example for the present rulers. Those who are ruling the world at the present moment should take lessons from King Jaya, King Yudhishthira, and King Prithu, and rule the citizens so that they will be happy. Presently, the governments are levying taxes without improving the citizens in any cultural, religious, social, or political way. According to the Vedas, this is not great.
Yeah. So the future few verses are basically about glorification of Lord Gaya, and why that is important, because we are all in the material world. We need some examples, not only of great personalities in the spiritual realm, but somebody who has like lived here and done things. And that is the reason why Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us that explanation of a little more elaboration on his character and personality. So we just continue to read here. Anybody wants to read?
Yes, brother. I'll read it again.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please read, Mataji.
Yeah. Translation. The great king Gaya used to perform all kinds of Vedic rituals. He was highly intelligent and expert in studying all the Vedic literatures. He maintained the religious principles and possessed all kinds of opulence. He was a leader among gentlemen and a servant of the devotees. He was a totally qualified plenary expansion of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, who could equal him in the performance of gigantic ritualistic ceremonies?
Thank you, Mataji. So earlier we have seen that Prabhupada had clarified about Swamshas and Vibhinnamshas. So in Vibhinnamshas are basically Jiva Tattvas. So they are talking about plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And King Gaya being one of them. And this is self-explanatory, basically talking about his activities, which show us that, yes, how he lived his life and what is the kind of inspiration that we can take, that everything was. So he was highly intelligent, expert in studying all the Vedic literatures, maintained religious principles and things like that. So we just continue reading. Akinchan Prabhu, you can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, brother. Yes. All the chaste and honest daughters of Maharaja Daksha, such as Shraddha, Maitri, and Daya, whose blessings were always effective, bathed Maharaja Gaya with sanctified water. Indeed, they were very satisfied with Maharaja Gaya. The planet Earth personified came as a cow, and as though saw her calf, she delivered milk profusely when she saw all the good qualities of Maharaj Gaya. In other words, Maharaj Gaya was able to derive all benefits from the earth and thus satisfy the desires of these citizens. However, he personally had no desire. Purport: the earth over which Maharaj Gaya ruled is compared to the cow. The good qualities whereby he maintained and ruled the citizens are compared to the calf. A cow delivers milk in the presence of her calf. Similarly, the cow on earth fulfilled the desires of Maharaj Gaya, who was able to utilize the resources of the earth to benefit his citizens. This was possible because he was bathed in sanctified water by the honest daughters of Daksha. Unless a king or a ruler is blessed by the authorities, he cannot rule the citizens very satisfactorily. Though the good qualities of the ruler, the citizens become very happy and well qualified. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, so here also again, like we have seen this example again and again in whether it is Prithu Maharaj's description or Parikshit Maharaj, that about cows profusely giving milk, and it is analogical also, that which means that everything was prosperous and everything was going perfectly fine everywhere. Everybody was happy, every citizen was happy in every way. Why? Because again, when we talk about the watering the root principle that Prabhupada has so many times spoken about, right? So automatically every branch, every twig, every leaf is nourished. And here, especially, what is being talked about is, so what is the importance of this chaste and honest daughters of Maharaja Daksha, such as Shraddha, Maitri, and Daya, whose blessings were always effective? Bathe Maharaja Gaya with sanctified water. So what is the relevance of this is that women like played a very important role, and there are many examples where chaste women, like we saw the example of Sati also, that when she was insulted, and her purity was such and her chastity was such that she could through her yoga shakti, she was able to put herself ablaze, right? So their distress can destroy the whole world, and their happiness can also like bless the whole world. So that is what is being. So Maharaja Gaya was so exemplified and so great that he got the blessing of such chaste women. That's what is basically being indicated here. So such was the purity of Maharaja Gaya, that even chaste women were actually blessing him. And this example was actually given here. Yes. Anybody for the next translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maji. Please read.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Although King Gaya had no personal desire for sense gratification, all his desires were fulfilled by virtue of his performance of Vedic rituals. All the kings with whom Maharaja Gaya had to fight were forced to fight on religious principles. They were very satisfied with his fighting, and they would present all kinds of gifts to him. Similarly, all the Brahmanas in his kingdom were very satisfied with King Gaya's munificent charities. Consequently, the Brahmanas contributed a sixth of their pious activities for King Gaya's benefit in the next life. Hare Krishna.
Can you also read the next one,
Yeah.
Prabhuji?
Sure, Prabhuji. In Maharaja Gaya's sacrifices, there was a great supply of the intoxicant known as Soma. King Indra used to come and become intoxicated by drinking large quantities of Somarasa. Also, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the Yagna Purusha, also came and personally accepted all the sacrifices offered unto him with pure and firm devotion in the sacrificial arena. Purport. Maharaj Gaya was so perfect that he satisfied all the demigods who were headed by the heavenly king Indra. Lord Vishnu himself also personally came to the sacrificial arena to accept the offerings. Although Maharaj Gaya did not want them, he received all the blessings of the demigods and the Supreme Lord himself. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Yeah, so what are these two verses telling us? The verse 11 and verse 12. They are basically talking, what verse 11 has told us is how King Gaya kept the different sections of the society and the different varnas happy and satisfied. So in the capacity of a kshatriya, how he was taking care of as an emperor, how he was engaged in battles, and he was with the other subordinate kings, and how he was maintaining his rule. So but were these subordinate kings dissatisfied with all his with these battles? No, because they recognize that he always adhered to his religious principles. So even in battles, he would follow all the rules and regulations that were meant for kshatriyas, and he always adhered. So nobody was dissatisfied with him. Even his enemies were not dissatisfied with him. So it is talking about, the verse 11 is actually telling us how he is performing his swadharma of kshatriya dharma, how he was performing, and how he was ensuring the satisfaction of these different classes of the society. Like kshatriyas were satisfied because of his just fighting, and brahmanas were satisfied because of his charitable acts, and and that made them willingly share a portion of their pious activities with him. So imagine, like, they were not forced or coaxed into anything, and they were willingly wanting to share um, 1/6 of the portion of their pious activities to for the benefit of King Gaya. How were Vaishyas being satisfied? they were encouraged with kind words and affectionate dealings by the king. And how were Shudras satisfied? Because they were contented with the sumptuous food and the charity which was provided by Maharaja Gaya. So even if we have to understand in our own context, like when we are being nourished by the prasada and the services when we are doing, uh, so that is what service is, basically what is the nature of Shudras, right? And that is how we are originally, and um, and that's how we are being nourished. So there is nothing wrong in being called a Shudra or the different varnas. It is that for every class and section of the society, um, even in terms of qualities, not by birth, but even in terms of qualities, based on our propensity, we can identify what exactly are we. But there is a provision by the Supreme Lord that everybody can get devotional service and everybody can get mercy in their own way. And this is how he was ensuring, King Gaya was ensuring, and how he honored all the Brahmanas and the saintly people. And that's the reason why they were able to share same thing about Tadvidhi Pranipatena. So approaching the spiritual master with humility, inquiry, and service, and that's how Brahmanas were being taken care of, and they in return also they were doing whatever was required. And what did the text 12 talk about? So this was about his Varnashrama Dharma, and the next one was talking about how he pleased the demigods and the Supreme Lord. So there is a similar verse, the same, the tree wala example, the roots, watering the roots wala example is actually from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 31st chapter, and the 14th verse, which actually talks about the pouring of water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else, and supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body. So simply by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfied the demigods who are parts of that Supreme Personality. So the principle is actually here, and this is what we are seeing in example of King Gaya himself. Yatha taror mula nishechanena tripyanti tatskandha bhujopashakha प्राणोपहारात् च यथेन्द्रियाणां तथैव सर्वार्हणम् अच्युतेज्य. And that is what is available in Srimad Bhagavatam already, and has been quoted by Srila Prabhupada so many times in so many contexts. And the same thing is spoken in Bhagavad Gita also, that why were demigods, what does it mean that Indra is coming and drinking Somarasa? Basically means that the demigods are satisfied. Indra, who's the leader of the demigods, he satisfied himself, and that's why he is coming, and in whatever way he could satisfy himself is basically it is to show, this verse is basically to show that in the demigods were satisfied, Supreme Lord was also satisfied. So Supreme Lord is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhrudam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim vrichyati. He's saying that if you know that I am the ultimate beneficiary of all the sacrifices that you are doing, all the austerities that you are doing, then you are automatically, and I am like that, I am only the well-wisher, I am the Supreme Lord of all the planets, all the demigods, I am the benefactor of all living entities, and you automatically attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. That's what he's saying in Bhagavad Gita also. And this is an example, a live example of that. So we go to text 13. Yeah, somebody can read.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Very good.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
When the Supreme Lord is pleased by a person's actions, automatically all the demigods, human beings, animals, birds, bees, creepers, trees, grass, and all other living entities, beginning with Lord Brahma, are pleased. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the super soul of everyone, and he is by nature fully pleased. Nonetheless, he came to the arena of Maharaj Gaya and said, I am fully pleased. Purport. It is explicitly stated herein that simply by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one satisfied the demigods and all other living entities without differentiation. If one pours water on the root of a tree, all the branches, twigs, flowers, and leaves are nourished. Although the Supreme Lord is self-satisfied, he is so pleased with the behavior of Maharaj Gaya that he personally came to the sacrificial arena and said, I am fully satisfied. Who can compare to Maharaj Gaya?
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
exactly like we discussed just now about Srimad Bhagavatam talking about watering the roots, and Bhagavad Gita talking about satisfying the Supreme Lord automatically satisfies the demigods in Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. That's what is this verse about, right?
14.
Yes. Somebody can read this?
Hare Krishna Mataji, shall I read?
Yes, Mataji, please.
In the home of Gayanti, Maharaja Gaya begot 3 sons named Citraratha, Sugati, and Avarodhana. In the home of his wife Urna, Citrartha begot a son named Samrat. The wife of Samrat was Utkala, and in her home Samrat begot a son named Marichi. In the home of his wife Bindumati, Marichi begot a son named Bindu. In the home of his wife Saragha, Bindu begot a son named Madhu. In the home of his wife named Sumana, Madhu begot a son named Veeravrata. In the home of his wife Bhoja, Veeravrata begot 2 sons named Mantu and Pramantu. In the home of his wife Satya, Mantu got a son named Bhavana, and in the home of his wife Satya, in the home of his wife Dushana, Bhavana begot a son named Tvashta. In the home of his wife Virochana, Tvashta begot a son named Viraja. The wife of Viraja was Vishuchi, and in her home Viraja begot 100 sons and 1 daughter. Of all these sons, the son named Shatajit was predominant.
Thank you, Mataji.
Even 16, shall I read? Only small
please read,
one.
Mataji. Please read.
There is a famous verse about King Viraja. Because of his high qualities and wide fame, King Viraja became the jewel of the dynasty of King Priyavrata, just as Lord Vishnu, by his transcendental potency, decorates and blesses the demigods. Hare Krishna. That ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of it. Yeah, okay. Within a garden, a flowering tree attains a good reputation because of its fragrant flowers. Similarly, if there is a famous man in a family, he is compared to a fragrant flower in a forest. Because of him, an entire family can become famous in history. Because Lord Krishna took birth in the Yadu dynasty, the Yadu dynasty and the Yadavas have remained famous for all time. Because of King Viraja's appearance, the family of Maharaja Priyavrata has remained famous for all time. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 5th canto, 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Glories of the Descendants of King Priyavrata. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, so this is basically talking about, again, it comes back from all the discussion about King Gaya, who needs to be glorified for his exemplary activities. Then again, it comes back to the lineage, and it ends with the talking about Viraja. Sorry, what is his name? King Viraja. Yeah, right. So, what are they saying in description of King Viraja? Because of his high qualities and wide fame, King Viraja became the jewel of the dynasty of King Priyavrata. Right. So one person can sometimes like be the light or the shining light for the entire family, entire dynasty, or for entire community. Can you give me some examples of such people? from Srimad Bhagavatam or otherwise also. Like one person has actually made the community or the family famous.
Dhruva Maharaj.
Yes.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj. From coming from the family of demons, but actually
Yeah.
he is delivered 21 generations. Few generations up, few generations down. And that's how he is kind of lifted up his entire dynasty from or his entire generation. So that is a great example, right? Even Srila Prabhupada is such a great example for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, right? He made the Gaudiya Vaishnavism famous across the world. Otherwise, what was limited to a certain region and section of the society. But now, if everybody is able to do Harinam, Sankirtan, or even take the holy names on their tongues, isn't it greatness of Srila Prabhupada who actually made things famous? So such are great examples that we already have in life, and that's how we
Hare
can
Krishna, Mataji, your voice is
yeah. Hare Krishna. Can you hear now, Prabhuji?
still
Till bad, huh? Okay. Now that almost the chapter is over, I will play the speaker. Maybe it can get better. Just check it. 1 second. Is it better now, Prabhuji?
yes,
Better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that ends this 16th chapter where we have heard about some great personalities, taken some inspiration, learned about preaching. So any questions that I can answer? Any feedback that you can give? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you for the wonderful class.
So we
If there
can,
are any questions, you can anyone can ask.
yeah.
Otherwise, we can end this.
Otherwise, we can conclude the class in case nobody has questions.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much, Mataji. The table was very nice, Mataji. Easy to understand and
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, we can just a little bit again revisit the table because the names would have confused, but I will just take you through this one. Because I got so much confusion with the names, so I thought, yeah, the same thing. See here, and here comes Pratiha. What was Pratiha famous for? What did we discuss about Pratiha? Preaching. He glorified the Supreme Lord. What was Gaya famous for? Hare Krishna. What can we talk about when we talk about Gaya? We spoke so much about him. So what was his greatness? Direct.
He satisfied all the people. He satisfied all the people. Along with that, he made people spiritual.
Yes. So he performed his Swadharma, the Kshatriya Dharma. He performed his householder Dharma, Varnashrama Dharma. Everything he performed to the best of his abilities. And therefore, he is also called as the Vibhinamsha of the Supreme Lord, the direct expansion of Lord Vishnu, because of the way he's taken care of all his responsibilities. So that is what we can learn from Gaya, that how in the regular duties also you can take. And the next person we spoke about, Viraja, is one person who not much of details have been given, but they said that he is the jewel of the dynasty, so he must be really great. That he's made the dynasty famous. And that's how Prahlad Maharaj was, and that's how Srila Prabhupada was. So, yes, Hare Krishna. Any questions? Any other questions?
Actually, Mataji, Hare Krishna, wonderful class, Mataji, but everybody followed the Daivi Varnashrama, what our Maharaj says. So, Varnashrama, which includes Krishna, is called as Daivi Varnashrama.
Yes.
So, that was all followed by all the Pratiha.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji.
Thank
Like,
you,
we have
Mataji.
so many examples, and they come time and again, for us to understand that yes, such personalities existed in the past. This is our history, and therefore we can definitely try to get some purification and perfection. We can at least try for that. There is hope for us. That's what.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Krishna. So shall we conclude the class?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining and staying until the end. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada book reading ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Dandavat
Hare
pranam.
Krishna. Hare
Thank you all for joining today's session. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.